Great. From left to right is Jesse Owen, who's a professor in the counseling department at the University of Denver, where he also has a small private practice. And he's co-founder of the Multicultural Orientation Framework, which is what we're going to be doing today. Jordan Harris is adjunct professor at Abilene Christian University and also in private practice at the Joshua Center in Northwest Arkansas, and is routinely involved in the AAMFT Minority Fellowship Program. He gives trainings across the US on therapeutic expertise and hypnosis. And Simon Goldberg is assistant professor in the Department of Counseling Psychology and affiliate faculty at the Center for Healthy Minds, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. His research focuses on therapist characteristics, meditation-based interventions, and the use of technology to improve mental health care. So welcome to, and I'm Tony Ruminaire with the Deliberate Practice Institute. Welcome to my co-hosts. I know some folks just joined. For people who just did, please open the chat window and put in the location you're connecting from and the models of therapy that you use or supervise or teach, so we can all get to know each other a little bit. So today's webinar is on a new self-guided program for MCO deliberate practice training. This was developed by Simon Goldberg, one of our co-hosts, based on the MCO model, which Jesse Owen co-developed, and it's hosted by Jordan Harris, who's with us. So we're all here. And we are not going to spend time talking about deliberate practice today. We just don't have time to do that. It's okay. You don't need to know about deliberate practice for this to work. Like, we built it in a way so that it works. It should work great, even if this is your first experience with deliberate practice. But if you do want to learn more about deliberate practice, we've got a bunch of resources on our website, dpfortherapists.com. And there's introductory videos and exercises and blah, 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 all kinds of stuff there. So that's where that is. But again, you do not need that for today. We are recording this webinar, and we're going to be posting it all over the interwebs. So you're welcome to participate, but just know that we'll be recorded. The chat window is not recorded. So feel free to ask plenty of embarrassing questions in the chat window, and those will only be shared among all of us here today. But yeah, please don't share any confidential client information of any kind, though that won't come up in this program anyways. Great. So maybe Jesse, you could jump in and give an introduction to MCO.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. And welcome everybody. Thanks for spending some time on a Friday mid-afternoon. So I'm Jesse Owen, as Tony noted, and my work has been focused on the multicultural orientation framework. And just briefly, what we and my team has kind of developed over time is this idea of orientation versus competency. And the idea that competencies in that movement have taken off in a certain direction. But what we really wanted therapists to do is develop an orientation around thinking about cultural dynamics that happen in the therapy room. And so similar to like therapeutic orientation, right? It's a way that you see the world. It's a way that you hear things that come from clients. And so the multicultural orientation framework can be overlaid to almost any therapeutic framework that you might be using. And in general, what we have kind of highlighted are three pillars of MCO, which is the first pillar being cultural humility. And humility and cultural humility in particular is this intra and interpersonal aspect of that dynamic, right? So how are you thinking about yourself? How are you thinking about your own cultural values? And then the interpersonal is this kind of relational stance with clients where you're curious, you're non-superior, not judging the client based on their cultural views, and trying to suspend some sense of judgment in order to engage with the client. And what we find in general is that cultural humility is generally most difficult when clients say things or embody values that are different than ours, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. And so it's those moments in therapy that we encourage folks to say like, hey, I'm having a judgment reaction here. maybe I should stop and pause and think about a little bit around, why am I feeling this way? The second pillar of the MCO framework is cultural comfort. So this is kind of an internal body check, and we'll be doing a lot of this today when we walk through the deliberate practice exercises. Like, how are you feeling in this conversation? What are you like trying to suppress? Are you getting overwhelmed? Are you getting dysregulated in certain ways? Or are you feeling like this conversation is really comfortable for you? And so comfort's obviously the goal, but discomfort is actually a good sign that something's going on for you, right? So it can almost be like a signal that you should be thinking or feeling something else. And then the last pillar is cultural opportunities. And so these are those markers that happen in session where either the client says something or that you initiate as a therapist to engage in a cultural conversation and trying to drive things deeper. And so the one example that we can think of is this kind of division between what's a cultural marker and what's more of a symptom-based marker. And so, like for instance, I had a client years and years ago that she was mentioning how she lost her faith in God because of a really tragic situation that happened to her. And like then she described a bunch of depressive symptoms. And so, right, there's the decision making point, right? I could have either explored her depressive symptoms or I could have explored her loss in faith of God. And so, right in that moment, I was like, I want to explore this loss of faith and try to understand what that means for this client, see how we can understand how that's impacting her coping, and it really helped develop a better understanding of how she values and moves through the world. And so you can think about a lot of those different cultural opportunities of things that we can also make from our to our clients, which is an aspect of our intakes and all of these other aspects of what we do in terms of being a therapist, right? So what questions are we asking the client? In terms of intersectionality, our team has really focused on giving broad, open-ended options for clients to identify their values and to identify their identities that are most salient, and not to just assume that because a client is a racial ethnic minority, for example, that is their most salient identity. It could be something very different for the therapeutic process. So in general, there's a lot more to be said about MCO, and I'll stop here because I know we got to get through a lot more material. But there's a lot of good readings that Tony has posted here, and I'm happy to chat more with anybody about the MCO framework.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, so there's references at the end of the slides, and just a lot more resources available. Maybe Simon, you could just speak for a second about the program and research that is going on here.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Tony. So as Tony mentioned, we built a thing. We have a website that hosts this first attempt at a self-guided deliberate practice MCO website. And it is freely available. It is in the wild. You are welcome to use it. We're also on top of the website running a feasibility study just to see how people like the site if they use it. So when you go to the site, which we hope you will do, you'll be invited to consent to participate in the study. Nothing else changes whether or not you consent. So your experience of the website will be identical, but getting your consent allows us to use any information that you provide and the pattern of use that you have on the website for research. So hope you will consider that possibility.
Great. Let's jump in here and let's see. So just a few things about MCO is a little different, actually a lot different than the other foci we've had for deliberate practice, where it's not just like a skill that you get competent at, like empathy or whatever. And so we want to just introduce it briefly. This is an experiential model of multicultural training, and we're aiming to go beyond the intellectual understanding of MCO and help trainees do the inner work necessary for helping diverse populations. I know when I was in graduate school, I got really good about writing papers about multiculturalism. But if you watch videos of my sessions with clients where there's significant cultural differences, it often did not go well at all. So my intellectual understanding got quite divorced from my actual kind of ability to sit with diverse clients and help diverse clients. And so that's what we're aiming for here, is the experiential nature of the training. These are introductory beginner level exercises. So we think that everyone could benefit from them, but just know that this is kind of designed to get you started, and it's designed to kind of spark some really good conversations about this material. They are appropriate for graduate students, including first-year trainees. The module uses videos which show recorded vignettes of actors reading scripts. And the scripts are about incidents of bias, prejudice, that kind of thing. Now, the scripts were written by the actors themselves based on real life experiences of bias, prejudice, and so on that the actors experienced. Jordan also wrote some scripts based on information you gathered, right, in conversation with the Minority Fellowship folks. And so these we feel these vignettes have a very high level of ecological validity, if I'm using that term right, meaning these are real situations, right? These are not just like constructed, you know. And so including experiences of bias, and poor multicultural understanding in therapy itself. So these are definitely things that could come up in therapy. And I'd just like to thank the actors for the script writing, and then also the work that they did. Really great work. So their names are here. And I'd like to go ahead and jump into, yes, great. So people are asking questions in the chat. Please do. Even while we're yapping and doing the exercises, just type whatever questions you want in the chat, and we'll address them. So let's go to the website demonstration. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through it here on my screen, and you can also, if you want, connect directly on your computer if you feel like doing that. I put the link right here in the slides, so you could click on that. But let me switch here. All right, great. So when you go, can you guys see Jesse or Simon? Just give me a thumbs up if you saw the screen change. Okay, great. So when you go to the homepage here, this is what you see. Now there's two ways to start this. One is with the consent form, and that means that we will be able to collect your data, which does not include your name or anything like that. It does not record any audio, does not record any video or anything like that. But what it does is it helps us track kind of some information about who's using the website, which is really useful for us.
And Tony, one small point of clarification. So we are using people's names and email addresses to make sure we know it's you if you come back to the website.
Right.
But those will all be removed in data analysis, and of course will be confidential.
Yeah, so that is not, that will not be like public or whatever involved in your responses. Your responses are within you. So thank you, Simon, for that. The other option is to use it completely anonymously and use it without the consent form, which you're welcome to do as well. So either way, but I want to show you what the consent form looks like. So I'll click on that. And then here is, if you do this yourself, just read through it more carefully. So I would type my name, and I'd do that, and I'd put my email address. I type my name again, and so I do that. And so I fill out, geez, I'm 48 now. I'm filling out these, let's see, a doctorate in clinical psychology, more than 4 years, no. And I'd say no. And that's it. That's the whole demographic form. I just wanted to show you how short it is. So please consider filling that out. I hit continue. And now the instructions appear. I'm going to play the instructions here. And to my colleagues, if you can hear the sound, just please give me a thumbs up, okay? I want to make sure that's working. Hi, I'm Dr. Tony Rumanier.
And I'm Dr. Jordan Harris, and we're with the Deliberate Practice Institute, an institute dedicated to helping you improve your skills through practice and rehearsal. This unit has one main objective: to help you become better at handling issues of diversity and culture in your therapy room. we're going to use a series of videos of actors presenting as clients for various issues. It is the therapist's task to inquire about the cultural components of the issue so that clients feel safe bringing these issues into counseling. Clients may not always say the culture is a part of that presenting problem, but it's our task as therapists to ask so that clients feel safe bringing such issues into the counseling room. Our understanding of multiculturalism has been deeply influenced by Dr. Jesse Owens of the University of Denver. His framework has three main components. First, for the therapist to look for opportunities to inquire about the cultural aspects of the presenting problem. Second, for the therapist to do so from a stance of humility without defensiveness. Third, for the therapist to do so with a level of comfort, or to at least be aware of their own level of discomfort. I'll demonstrate with the first video. My task is to provide a therapeutic response that meets these two criteria. The first criteria is to ask if the client perceives culture to be a part of that presenting issue. The second criteria is to do so with a tentative and hypothesizing tone.
My aunt was in town last Thursday, and she took me to Bergdorf Goodman to buy a new coat. And when we were there, she went to go look at shoes. And one of the store employees, he came up to me and asked if I needed any help. And I said no. And then he just smiled and nodded. But then he kept following me around. And I guess maybe because I wasn't dressed very nicely, but it really fed into my insecurities about how I look and how I dress. So I used the positive affirmations that we went over, and that helped me feel a lot better.
Wow, that sounds confusing. And when you were being followed around the store, was there ever a thought of, hey, maybe this has to do with my background here, with my ethnicity? Now, it's your turn.
Great. Now, you might not have noticed there's a skip video button that was there. So if you had already seen it, you can skip through it. These are designed to be done multiple times. And so what we do now is click start. And here's the first video clip.
Yeah, it's been good. I just keep, I just have this issue where, we talked about, how can I advocate for myself at work? How can I bring up issues, talk to HR, things like that. And recently a discussion came up at work. It was totally outside of, we weren't working on a project. It was like a lunch hour thing. And we started talking about racism and, why certain things happen, and all of the political conversations that are happening. And it just felt like I had to keep qualifying everything. I had to explain myself and show them that that the racism was proven and that it was a real thing. And that just becomes such, I don't feel safe. It's like, I want to talk to y'all. I want to feel like I can connect with y'all at work. I feel like, we're working on these projects where it's like, oh, hey, HR is bringing in a new social justice initiative at work. But then the conversations I'm having with my coworkers, nobody's hearing me. Nobody's really having a conversation with me and saying, hey, I hear you. I see you. You don't have to explain yourself to me. And it's like, why do I have to explain myself every time? That's because it's actually happening. We're not talking about ideas. It's a real thing. And every time we go down that path, it feels like they don't get it. And then, I have to sit there and explain it again.
Great. So everyone now try responding to the video how you would with a client. All right, great. Now we hit continue. And now we're going to do what's called a difficulty assessment. One of the principles of deliberate practice is we want to provide an opportunity to rehearse that doesn't feel too easy or it doesn't feel too hard. That's in what's called the zone of proximal development. Now, this is different for everyone. And so I'm going to go ahead and answer this, but this is what you would do or your trainees would do. So how connected was I to my inner experience? Maybe I actually got really caught up in what the client was saying. So less, I'm going to put a 3. How challenging did it feel to do it? You know, actually responding to that client was pretty hard. So I'm going to click there. And now it's asking if you noticed any of the reactions listed below while watching the video. That means this video is in the good level of challenge. So they'll play it again, or a different video from the same category. And so I'm looking through here, and yeah, there's some anxiety. There's a bit of like self-judgment or shame, like I don't really understand the client, but like I want to. So definitely some tension. I think I was holding my muscles kind of tight. And so I click yes here. Now, if you noticed any of the reactions listed here while watching the video, it means that the video was too hard. And so they'll move to an easier video or less evocative video. And so I did not have any of these reactions at a severe or overwhelming level. I did not have any of these reactions in any of these. So I'll say no.
All right, now we're going to repeat the exercise. Deliberate practice works through repetition. If you indicated that the video was too easy or too hard, we'll show you a different video in order to help you find your best zone for optimal practicing. Deliberate practice works best when it's not too easy, not too hard, when it's just right for you. Let's go.
And then here's another video. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat window.
So I had this issue with my last therapist, and I haven't really told anybody about this, but she looked like me and had the same background as me. And so I guess she felt that she was similar to me in a lot of ways. And she made some assumptions that were wrong. And she was openly talking about her own biases, about other cultures to me. And she was very wrong in feeling that I was agreeing with her. And I was just shocked. I was appalled. So I just stood quiet and left and never went back. But I was so upset that I didn't confront her in that moment. And I just don't ever want to let that happen to me again. So I just wanted to ask if it was okay that we talk about biases in this environment.
Great. So everyone try responding to the client. Great. Now, something I want to emphasize before we proceed here is you'll notice we're not talking about the right answer or the correct way to do this or anything like that. We're just giving therapists and trainees an opportunity to explore, rehearse the wide variety of responses that can occur.
And Tony, I'd probably add, like, if you're trying to train on these videos, it's probably best to try multiple different responses, right? So what would be an open-ended question? What would be a reflection? What would be, the next step? The other thing that we've noticed while doing some of these videos is that if you write down your intentionality around what you would like to say, that can be a good place to start, but make sure that you do try practicing the actual response, because, right, intellectually, you can understand things probably quicker than coming up with multiple responses. So I think both are important.
Yeah, I want to really emphasize that second point. Thank you, Jesse. where students often have a lot of time writing down these ideas or journaling them or writing papers about them. And when you're sitting with a real client, it's quite different having to actually say it. So really try to say it. So I'm going to click continue, and then I'm going to do the difficulty assessment again. So just for the sake of argument, just for an example, I'm going to say that I'm going to pretend that I felt very, very kind of comfortable and easy doing it. So I'll say it's very connected. I'll say it felt like way too easy. I'll say that I had, let's see, I did not have these reactions because it was too easy, and I did not have these reactions. So,
all right, we're going to do this exercise one final time. Again, if you indicated that the video was too easy or too hard, we'll show you a different video. If you're getting tired, hang in there. Deliberate practice works best through sustained, effortful practice. This will make a huge difference in your development as a therapist. Let's go.
So this is the third and final video.
I don't think I've really shared this before, but I get really intense social anxiety in certain kind of like retail situations, like especially shopping and dining out. And I know it's really weird, but I always feel kind of like judged by people, and I just never enjoy myself. So I usually just kind of like avoid those situations. But the other day, I decided to try to step out of my comfort zone and meet a friend at a sushi restaurant that I wanted to try in my neighborhood. And I was really excited. She was running late, so I arrived there first. And as soon as I walked in the door, the maitre d' or whatever was like, Uber Eats. And I was like, no, I want to sit down. I'm meeting my friend. And that was already mortifying. But then when I sat down, I was looking over the menu, the staff at the restaurant kept on like looking at me and like talking to each other. And they kept on coming up like over and over again and be like, hey, is your friend coming? Like, when is your friend coming? And it was just really weird. I felt just very unwelcome. And so I just kind of like, I left and I told my friend to meet me somewhere else. And I don't want to read into it too much, but I just felt really bad, and it kind of like confirmed my anxieties about those situations. So like how should I deal with that in future? You know, like what strategies should I use?
Try again here. All right, great. And then we click continue, and we would do another difficulty assessment here. You finished. Great work.
Below is an assessment of your progress while in this program. Also, there are some recommendations for you. See you again soon.
Great. So here it's providing some feedback, and based on my answers, it says that I may have found my clinical skill growth edge, which means that these exercises were challenging enough to be valuable for me to keep rehearsing in, but not too hard. And then there's an opportunity for me to provide feedback, and then that's it. So what did that take? The whole thing takes less than 20 minutes, maybe 15 odd minutes or so. I want to provide, there's some, great. So there looks like there's a question here or just a comment. Thank you, Joanna. If anyone else has comments or questions, now's a good time to jump in. There's another thing that I'll show you in a moment if we get through the questions or comments.
Tony, I have just one quick note. because of Jordan and Tony's efforts, we have a beautiful set. I think there's 20 some videos. So even if you do it repeatedly, you shouldn't see the same video every time, and which hopefully keeps it fresher and gives you more opportunity to practice different skills.
Yeah, we got about 20 different videos. So someone here said it felt too easy. And this is one of the real challenges with deliberate practice for therapist training, is how do you find the right zone of proximal development, because it's different for everyone. Like, I'll tell you, for me, this was not too easy. It continues to not be too easy. But for some people it might feel. So that's why we made a wide variety of videos. And it's really personal how people respond to them. It has to do with, your own history, your own culture, your own, countertransference, or whatever you want to call it. So, so try more videos, yeah. So let's see, Linda has a question. Are there practice videos for talking with families and children? We're actually just starting to make those now, videos for therapy with children. So yeah, we that's in development. Well, let me, while people are thinking of their questions, let me jump to this. This is the deliberate practice diary form that, oh wait, here's a question from Julia. Do too hard response choices result in seeing greater variety of vignettes? No, so you're gonna, it's actually within the 3 difficulty categories, it's randomizing what videos you're gonna see. So you'll see a variety, however you choose. Right, Simon?
Yeah, so the 3 categories that Tony's alluding to, I don't know if you mentioned this explicitly, but there's videos where the multicultural topic is implicit, videos where it's explicit, and then videos where it's relational.
With the therapist.
With the therapist, yep, exactly, yep. So we consider those to be the hardest to respond to, a client expressing concerns about multicultural issues in the therapy relationship. And then the implicit ones were the middle, and then the explicit ones we considered to be the easiest to respond to.
Though, these are just like broad stroke guesses. That is not a scientifically derived category. And, and your experience may definitely differ in terms of difficulty. So Anne asked to see more videos. We can't play them here in the webinar because we got a bunch of stuff to get through. But you can do the program, and if you do the program, you'll see over time all the videos. They're also on our website.
Especially if you're responding that it's too easy, Anne, then you should be getting the relational videos even in the second round.
So Connie asked, do we plan on providing examples where the client reacts to the therapist's response? I mean, that's a great idea for the future, but that we're not there yet.
Yeah, I would add in there, Connie, that's a great question. We've gotten a lot of feedback around that topic. And one of the things to consider is, from a therapist standpoint, we're like practicing just one response. Whereas in therapy, it's a combination, obviously, of a whole dialogue. And I think some people their initial reaction might just be pure, like empathetic, not discussing culture at all. And that's okay, right? And it might be like you're setting it up for the next statement or 2 statements down the road. But while you're practicing with these fake clients, it's also good to trying to incorporate cultural responses as well.
Now,
yeah, I'll just add one more piece to that. I think, because I think that's so true, right? Like Jesse was saying, therapy is such an interaction. I think Tony would agree with this. From a training standpoint, when you do deliberate practice, you want to be very clear on the smallest unit. And so that's, I think, that sort of the strength of this. Yeah, we of course need to think about, well, how can clients respond to this? But if you want to really drill down to what is the smallest unit I'm going to practice, so that I can then see what my growth is here.
Yeah, and traditionally that's something we've had difficulty doing in mental health training, is we're pretty good at talking about broad concepts or doing like, big role plays of 20 minutes of therapy, but drilling down and rehearsing like small units again and again and again. And honestly, that's often where trainees' confidence comes from, is when they've really rehearsed something again and again and again, and they've had the opportunity to make a zillion mistakes. Now, I want to emphasize here, the goal here is not to like get it right or get it perfect. This is actually a great opportunity to make all kinds of mistakes, you know, with the video, to experiment, to say things you'd never say to a client, and then you find out, trainees find out what feels right, what works.
Yeah, I would also add to that, Tony, we just finished a small double case study where we did deliberate practice with 2 trainees and using this type of technology. And what we saw was increases in humility and major increases in cultural opportunity. And so even in some of the qualitative interviews that we did with them, they said they felt more comfortable, they felt more engaged and able to use these skills. And you know, one of the biggest things that I think that we see in general is information avoidance and trying to avoid talking about culture or dancing around it. And so just having this opportunity to do it with fake clients is a great thing, because you're not exposing any real people to the missteps that we can have. And it's a nice way to make those mistakes and try it again and try it again, because we all make mistakes. We all say things maybe not in the right way, and that's just part of life. And so just trying to train that with trainees in a way that's probably a little bit more comfortable and protected is a good idea.
Yeah. So Linda has a great question here. Will trainees using the website get any feedback or guidance or modeling of effective responses? So we do not have that in this website. This is a kind of a one-way training, a pretty simple training tool. Now, if the trainee, there's a few things you can do. First of all, if the trainee is doing it with you sitting there, then you can definitely provide feedback. And another thing that I've actually heard supervisors do is they have the trainees set up their phone to just record video of themselves responding. And then they send that video to the supervisor via like Dropbox or whatever. Remember, there's no confidential client's information in here. So the whole like HIPAA thing isn't an issue. And then the supervisor can provide feedback on that. So either way, but and that's a great thing to do. But if you do it, I just want to double underline to really let the trainee know the goal is not for them to prove they're competent to you, right? The goal is for them to stretch, explore, experiment, to gradually feel more confident with what they're doing. Thank you. Nathan had a nice comment. Thank you. So I want to speak very briefly about what's on the screen here. This is called the Deliberate Practice Therapist Diary Form. And I know there's some supervisors, professors here who might be using this with their trainees. This is not part of the website, but this is something that people find helpful. This is a one-page form that trainees can fill out after doing the exercise, and then they can send it to you, and it gives you a sense of tracking how things are going. So let me switch back to here. Let me reload here. Oh, whoops, make it bigger. Yes, I can make it bigger, sorry. Here we go. So they record how long they did the exercise. They describe what they did. They describe if it felt helpful or if it worked, or if it was unhelpful, if it didn't work. And this can be really good for figuring out, did it feel too easy? Sometimes trainees are like, this was way too hard. Like the trainee just felt paralyzed, right? That is a wonderful thing to find out before the trainee has an experience with the client. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want to find out beforehand. And so it's great when trainees say those kinds of things. And then what did you learn about yourself? And there's something here I want to emphasize. We really want to protect trainees' boundaries when they're doing training activities like this. Obviously, it's very personal. It can be very vulnerable. And so we want to encourage, one thing I often say to trainees is, me knowing about your inner world will not help you be a better therapist when you're sitting with your clients. But you knowing about your inner world probably will. So you don't have to tell me the details of what's going on inside you. But I do want you to pay attention to the details of what's going on inside you. And then they can just describe it in broad strokes to us, the supervisors. They can be like, it was too hard or too easy or that kind of thing. So if you have any questions about that, feel free. Do you guys see the slides again? Great. So this is how we recommend using this if you're going to use it in a class. Is you spend, it was about 15, maybe 20 minutes doing it in class, and just students can sit at their own computers or on their phones. It should work on phones in Chrome or Firefox, right, Simon?
Thank you. Yes. Chrome or Firefox.
Chrome or Firefox, not in other browsers. And then we strongly recommend leaving a good amount of time for discussion afterwards, because typically it sparks all kinds of questions. And that can be a really rich conversation. And then we recommend assigning the exact same website, the exact same process for homework. Just the exact same thing. We recommend using the diary form that's available on our website. I think I emailed it to everyone as well. So then they can let you know how their homework went, and then they can record it if they want.
And just when I've done this in my classes, one common issue that comes up is students want to get it right the first time, and they don't want to feel like they're having to practice over and over again. And so just trying to remind them that the practice part of this is the goal, versus trying to get it, like Tony mentioned, like there is no right answer to this. This is developing a repertoire of skills.
Yeah. I mean, it's developing the person of the therapist as much as anything else, right, Jesse?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and so this slide, I don't know if we have to go over this in detail. We sent the slides around, but this is something we've been kind of saying all along throughout the webinar is this is different than deliberate practice for other clinical skills like CBT skills or MI skills or that kind of thing, where it's more of a kind of a career-long development process. We do recommend that trainees get some exposure to MCO theory before doing this, just so they have some grounding. And that's why we listed the research. And let me just jump to that research right here. This is a summary of the MCO research. There's other papers in the works, right, Jesse?
Yeah, we have some coming out about MCO and supervision and what that looks like, as well as some other outcome studies that are being done.
So this is a active area of research. And then if you want research about deliberate practice, here are a bunch of studies just from the past. These are all from the past 5 years, I think. Yeah. So that it's also a very active area of study. And let's wrap up in a second. But there's other resources here, and these are the references. These are the kind of readings that we really recommend to get your students oriented towards MCO. So I'll just go back to the beginning here. So something I would like to do is for the supervisors, professors here, if you'd like to use this with your trainees, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you want any help getting started, if you want further information, anything like that. We really designed this to be used in graduate training. So we're happy to help you get that set up. And Jordan, you're muted. Were you saying something? Okay. I think that's it. So please feel free to email any of us afterwards if you want to be in touch. Thanks for joining today. And thank you, Julia. Thanks for your comments. There's a lot of really great comments and questions. And I guess that's it. Have a great holidays, everyone. All right. Bye, everyone.